Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Doomer Optimism podcast. It's been a little while since I've been on here. I've been handing the mic around to various people, but I'm here today with John Heers. John is a friend of some of our Orthodox friends in the Doomer
Mm,
Optimist community. Michael
mhm,
Sellis specifically, Josh Centers.
mhm.
I heard about John from Michael, and we've got some things in the works together, which we'll talk about. But first, John, I'll just have you introduce yourself, whatever you feel like sharing.
I'll do it. John Heers. I am a guy that quit my job about 6 years ago and started a nonprofit. Well, more like 8.
Okay.
Well, I quit my job 6 years ago, and then this was my job,
Okay.
called First Things Foundation. And I've been running that now, and we keep growing because of reasons that are inexplicable, except for they're explicable. Maybe that's what I'll try to talk to you about today.
Okay.
But
Yeah. What
as
what
it,
is what is first
yeah.
things?
So fundamentally, we send people to live and work in probably some of the world's most forgotten neighborhoods.
Mm.
So we work in the rural areas of Mozambique, Sierra Leone, where actually we're in the village where Ebola is said to have started.
Wow.
Uh, we're in the hills, the mountains of Momostenango in Guatemala. We've just got invited and are sending people to Tierra Bomba, which is a really wild place I can tell you about in Colombia, outside of Cartagena.
Mm.
We're in the Georgian Republic, in the southern mountains, in a place called Samska Javaketi. And previously we were in Appalachia. We tried that. I can explain that. But so we sent people for 2 years, sometimes 2.5. They embed and immerse, learn local language. So, for instance, in Guatemala, Spanish is not the local language.
Hmm.
It's Quiche, or some variation on Quiche. And Makua, Mende. We learn different local languages and then live simply. So mud huts and simple homes. We often take a room in a home of a family.
Mm.
We work with people who probably didn't go past third or fourth grade. And here's what we do. Uh, we immerse and then identify local impresarios, people who we in America they think of as entrepreneurs. It's not a great. It doesn't translate well.
Translate 1-to-1, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because entrepreneurs here are trying to like take an idea, sell it, and then get rich. That's not really the concept. But basically, those people exist in all cultures. They always have. And we try to identify them and then facilitate, from the French facile, to make easier,
Mm.
the thing they're trying to do, not the thing we want them to do,
Mm.
because that's stupid. Often doesn't work. And so we're not trying to electrify East Africa with some great new technology, like shut up already. But we are trying to help local people who say, if I do this goat fencing, then I can lay fallow these 3 acres, which will allow me to grow this, which will allow me to increase my yield and feed my goats, and I can start a goat business. And we're like, well, let's talk.
Mm.
Those people are real. They're all over. And so our job is to work with them to build their idea. So we're consultants in that sense. And so we do that in 5 different countries, 4 different continents. And it's pretty wild because somehow people like it a lot, but it doesn't yield. Like you're not. That's when 1 million people were fed by First Things
But
Founded.
it
Like,
doesn't scale, like, in the
yeah, it
sense
doesn't
of, yeah, it
scale,
doesn't scale. Yeah.
which might be actually a sign of health, because
Yeah.
scale's probably deadly, like as a spiritual idea too.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
I can reproduce the way I feel, then everyone will be happier. Shut up, bro.
I
You're
kn
like a
Yeah.
little creature in a giant creation. Like,
Yeah. And so let me just, for your information, tell you a little bit about what I've done that's similar to that.
I know, I was reading. I want to hear this though.
Yes. Okay. So, and I haven't really talked about it too much on the podcast lately, but okay. So I moved to Uruguay in South America with my family. We bought land in 2012, moved in 2016, and then moved back. almost 2 years ago. My husband and I are from Chicago. And
Wait,
the
that's where you are right now?
I'm in Chicago, yeah.
You're back in Chicago.
Yes, I'm back in Chicago, yeah. So we've spent 7 years there. I started this Rhizoma Field School. I've got my PhD in environmental sociology, and I had this kind of like epiphany that people need to learn out of the classroom. I can go into
Yes.
the thinking behind that, but basically, like, our sense of scientific understanding has become so alienated
Really?
from nature and people that I was like, these are kids, they're undergrad, so it's like they just need to get out into the world and see everything in context.
Yes.
And people are really intelligent when they notice a lot of things
Yeah,
when they
that's
see things
nice.
in context. So I started this field school where I had students come and study abroad, basically short study abroad trips, and they worked with regenerative or agroecological farmers, and they did work. Here, let me set this. Dog barking. They did work with the with the farmers. Actually, they showed up and like pulled weeds or planted trees or built fences or whatever. And it's the philosophy behind it. I'm sure is we can talk a little bit about your philosophy too, but basically the idea being, people have to get their hands dirty. They have to like manipulate the material world to understand it to some
Yeah, good.
and so then, the students really loved it. The farmers loved it because I'm asking them, like, what do you need help with? But not only that, because, you're bringing down these unskilled laborers, but not only that, like, you're the expert and putting them on a platform as the expert, like, you know what you want, you know what your philosophy is. That was really cool because there is, like you already alluded to, this kind of like nonprofit industrial complex,
Yeah,
especially like Gates Foundation type stuff, but also it can exist a little bit in the religious space too, where you come in
for
and you give
sure.
them what they want or what you want for them. And it's not an exchange and it's not a relationship. And then it just ends up being like, especially with the super technocratic stuff, it ends up being like, oh, this whiz bang solar toilet, and then it just breaks in 6 months. And and we had a guy on here who's a big friend of the podcast, Josh Kearns, who did that work. He's like a water treatment guy, and he went all over the world, and he was like so disillusioned by that.
Yeah, me
So
too. That
yeah,
happened to
so the
me.
work like, the international work, it's a tricky thing to balance. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about that.
That's great. Yeah, it's super tricky to balance. I think if you start with a premise, here's my Orthodox Christianity kicking in. What's just Christianity, I think. But if you actually just start with the balance that with the realization, hey, everything's going to pass away, and good try. Thanks for playing. You did a good job, and also you died probably because you are a sinner. Like that's why you died, and good try. And then God is forgiving, and so let's hope. And
Yeah,
so if you start like that, then a good try is something like, let's see what happens. And then that worked. And so then we take the next step. And then you take the next step. But the first step for a foreigner, like if you just think about a virus, the first thing is not to come in and be a virus right away. It's first just to live within the body. So if you flip that and you imagine a virus as something like a positive, which they can be, the outside thing must acculturate itself in the
mm,
inside thing. Like it's very odd that we imagine we can show up because we have good ideas and technology and then suddenly be of use to the inside thing. It's like
right.
very odd concept. It's
Yeah,
actually parasitic and it kills
right.
the thing. So what we try to do is, and to speak to what you're talking about, is we don't like do projects. We are the project for the first 6 to 8 months. So the project is you. Like if
Right.
you were to join Ashley, then you know already because you're doing it. But if you weren't you, but you were new to our organization, we'd say, okay, here's what you're going to do. Learn the local language and then go work on a job that's part of that indigenous culture.
Mm.
And don't hear indigenous as Native American, but whatever's going on
Yeah,
there.
right,
So
the local culture, whatever it
yeah,
is. Yeah.
so our guys will go and work with like Sierra Leonean Mende woodcutters. And if you watch them cut wood, it's really hard. And also, it's not that straight. So your inclination is to help them cut it straight. Like, that's not allowed. No, see, you're their employee.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
they might say, cut it straighter. Hey, show me how, but that's not your business.
Yeah,
So we've had guys work at like hardware stores in Guatemala, and they'll be like, there's no way they're not tracking any of their goods in and out. I'm like, I don't care about that. Did you go and carry the cement? Because whatever they asked you to do is your job
yeah, right.
for 6 to 8 months. And in that period, what happens is spiritually you get your ego broken down.
Mm,
And that's what we really don't like the most in the West.
mm,
See, our ego is our identity. And then
mhm.
that's, by the way, not a thing in history. The ego is actually something you're supposed to get rid of. If you think about it, it's like the opposite. It's like, I am who I am, what I've done, and who I am. Like,
Yeah,
shut
right,
up.
I know,
Mostly you're preparing for death because
right.
no one's going to remember you, including your blood, in 200 years.
Yeah,
Like, can you name your blood from 200 years ago? I can't. So, like, I don't know who my great 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 grandmother was by
right,
name. So,
right.
I guess my point is if you can acquire the humility that's necessary to become inside,
Mm,
you'll never be an insider, but you'll be of use to the inside. And
mm,
they need you because, like, the philosophy is the inside also will die. Like, let's just call it a little local village in West Africa. Everything's going and working well, and they're never in touch with the outside. That's not possible. It'll die. That thing dies. You got to eat, right?
yeah,
That food comes from the outside for the body, and the body is nourished by an outside thing. But there has to be a proper relationship to the outside. And once the proper relationship is, then the outside food feeds the inside body prepares and does what it needs to do to be healthy, and then it all works together. But in our aid programs over, really, since America became an empire after World War II,
mhm,
our aid programs don't have this as a goal.
mm,
They have as a goal the idea that we can make other cultures in our own image.
mhm,
And that's really the goal. And
mhm,
the goal is to rewire the culture so that they're market-based. They have a merchant morality. In other words, the thing that's good in the society is the thing that sells.
mm.
Like, how do I know if I'm doing a good job? Oh, you made money this year? Good job.
Yeah,
Like,
right,
whoa,
right.
whoa, whoa, whoa,
Well,
whoa.
and how do you formalize? How do you measure everything? How do you get it into the marketplace? Like I'm in these sociology circles, like a lot of environmentalists, and you can't even believe how insidious this whole perspective is, even amongst like progressives, quote unquote. I'm
Right.
sitting in these meetings and there's like this conversation about informal marketplaces around the world, food marketplaces. And these technocratic, environmentalist progressives are saying these people need to be measured. They need to measure what
Ugh,
they're selling. They need to put a price on it. It needs to be on a spreadsheet. We
no.
need to know all of these things. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, what? Like, what? I just don't understand why. If this informal system works for them, like, manner of control, and,
Yes.
and so
That's it.
I'm like, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff like that where it's really insidious, where you just think, like, this is obviously the right way to do it. They have to measure things. We need to have regulations on these, and you're just
Right.
like, "What? How do you come to from such a point of hubris that
But
you would know
I,
better than the way that these people are doing it?"
see, I don't see. I think I see that what you're describing perfectly. See, I think there's been an inversion. In other words, to acquire, why do you need that information? Well, I want to help them. Okay. So the next question is like, okay, how does the information about their informal market, how does your acquisition of that information help them? And they'd be like, well, once I have a clear view of the numbers, then I can go back to them and now watch what happens. Now you're a teacher of a new concept that is supposed to help people that are already taking advantage of the informal market. So what you're trying to do, and it's always the same thing, actually,
Yeah.
it's always about efficiency.
Mhm.
So efficiency becomes its own value. And
Mhm.
you're like, but efficiency is not a good in and of itself.
Mm.
Dostoevsky talks about this. He's like, people don't understand that the human being, what they don't want to be is utterly always efficient. It's not in their nature. It actually is a destruction. It's destructive to the human being to only pursue efficiency, because
Mhm.
that's not how we are. We are a mess. We are sinners. We make mistakes. And all of that is necessary to our being.
Yeah, well, not only the bad side too, there's also the messy good side, which is that, like, this can't be measured in terms
Right.
of productivity, but I enjoy sitting down and having a cup of coffee
Right.
for an hour with a friend, and that's not efficient,
And it's not measurable.
but it's beautiful and it's wonderful,
Yeah.
and there's all
Yeah.
sorts of things like that in life, and the one other thing I'll say about this informal market thing is what they actually wanna do, at least this environmentalist, because everybody has their own, um goals for control. Like the economists want to measure it so that they can tax it or whatever, or put it as a part of the marketplace. But the environmentalists want to measure it so that they can come back and tell them how to be more environmental.
Right.
And half the time, these markets are like literally just local food markets.
Yes.
And meanwhile, in
Yes.
the West, like we can't even get local food. We've lost all of that. So
Right.
so so much so that we're gonna come back in and tell these people how to like be more environmental. Like the whole thing is so nuts. But anyways,
You
I
know,
think
can I add something on this?
yeah,
Because something I can't get away from this thought, and it's probably going to make people irritated because of the way the thought comes to me, but I just want to share it. Have you ever met someone? I'm just going to call them autistic. I don't know what that word means anymore. I'm not sure how it's even applicable, because I think it's been previously, when I was coming up, it meant a type of thinker, a way. It meant someone who had done something out of the ordinary, or they thought in an out of the ordinary way, and was often called like a handicapped. Okay.
yeah,
But this is what I want to, I'm old, so don't get mad at me, people. But here's the deal. I got the wrong vocab. I get it. But what, if you really watch an autistic person, many of whom I know, and we've hired folks like this, when they get to the leftover, when they get to the remainder, they do the math. Now here, do the math on life. What I mean is when they go, 2 cars is too many for the driveway, so and then there's like a little remainder.
yeah.
It's an unpleasant thing for that kind of for that
uh,
kind of thinker, for that kind of
Right.
mind.
Yep.
That kind of person doesn't like the remainder. There's something about the remainder they have to try to get rid of. Redo the equation until everything is cut perfectly. So what happens is that kind of mind is very effective in the world,
Mm,
like Silicon Valley.
mm-hmm.
That kind of mind does great things with the material world. The problem is that kind of mind does not understand the complexity of human nature. It doesn't fully understand who we are. It just does math. Math is fine, but math is not, it's not about that's not about our anthropology. In other words, math is not an indicator of my humanity.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a relationship with my humanity. It has a relationship with the material world, but my humanity is spiritual and material.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is, I think what's happened for the last 300 years is that type of thinking has become the way of thinking.
Yeah.
In other words, we're trying to acquire that way of thinking. And you know why? Because it's in our icons. In other
Mm,
words, the computer, the personal computer, has not only become something that we teach, but it's something that teaches us.
mm.
And it's all based in the mathematical mind. And so we're becoming, just everybody is becoming more autistic by
Yes,
nature.
I totally agree with you. I actually so I because of this phenomenon, my whole, background is my dissertation research was qualitative, which is I sat down with people face to face and interviewed them and then
Mhm.
figured out what people were saying that was in common, what was different, which group fit with who. I have this phrase called spreadsheet brain, and it's just
This is
like
it.
it's it, that's it. I mean, it's just and you see it everywhere, and it's I think part of it is that the people who are in power, and especially in the past century-ish, have used numbers as a form of control
Yeah.
and have said, you know, use numbers as like a flex too. Like the data says, and therefore I'm able to do this thing sort of thing. Like I'm appealing to science. We're beyond the irrationality of, the spiritual world or the
Hmm.
qualitative world. That's backwards. So a lot of it just has to do with like straight up power and
I
control.
think so. I think so.
But it's also just trickled down to, like, everybody, and so now everybody's like, I'm constantly fighting about this online, but it'll be like, it's irrational to have children, like, because they cost so much money and,
Yes, that's a
and
great
it's like,
example.
it's like, it's not really only about rationality and efficiency. There are other things to measure.
Yeah.
Um
I think your project, see, the cool part is there this is now becoming recognized that this is a degradation. We've overdone this.
Yeah.
I've got a pod coming up with a guy named Ian McGilchrist who talks about the
Oh, yeah.
master and his emissary and the way the left brain and the right brain works. And he's very scientific character, but even his scientific objective quote studies have led him to the same place that maybe you and I are as, let's just call it, I don't know, spiritual people or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's there's a new coming together where we are realizing this little by little, that we need a new way. And it's kind of heartening. I see it in our work where we have really cool projects. You can find them online. And very few of our donors are like, let's get down to the impact statement. As per the $100 I sent, what kind of turnaround do you have on that impact?
Yeah. I'm
Is it a
curious.
twofold?
You said at the beginning, like, it is kinda taking off. I wanna go back and talk more details about, like, what is going on the ground, but you said it was taking off, and you have some theory as to why. What are your thoughts? Do they connect with this part of the discussion we're having?
Why our kind of work and
Why your work yeah,
is taking off?
yeah,
Because I think in the end, what's happened is the idea of the first thing, that is to love your neighbor like you love your God, and or really the same concept in Orthodox Christianity. To love God is to love your neighbor. That's the whole point. Like that's why in Christianity, that's why Christ says they're the first two things. Like they're really one thing. When I love you because you're made in God's image, I'm also loving God. And when I love God and pray, then he demands that I love my neighbor.
mm,
These are connected ideas. So the first things, they're natural to people, not just because they're Orthodox or not, or Muslim or whatever. They're natural to our nature. They're a part of our nature, these first things, but they're not emphasized. And they
mm,
haven't been emphasized. And like we were just saying, in fact, the opposite has been emphasized to such an extent now that people are hungry, or thirsty is a better word. They've become dried out. They've become right, in other words, correct, but there's no life in their righteousness.
mm,
They have the numbers right, but they know that something's missing. We see this in our restaurant because we took the idea of first things, which is first, could you know the people and actually commune with the people you're trying to help? How about that? Let's just start with that one.
yeah,
You know what I mean? We used to take sandwiches in New York City. I'm from New York City, more or less. My family really is. I moved there later, but we used to take sandwiches to the homeless. It was really weird because the best part about that event was that we'd find the homeless in the same place. Oh, that would be their community. And eventually, if we went enough times to give sandwiches because they're very hungry, we actually just started to know the community. You
right,
see what I'm saying?
right,
Then you realize, oh, those sandwiches are way less important than actually sitting on this bench.
mm,
And then you go, but how do I measure this? You can't, fool. That's not for you to measure. That's for you to become. You're
yeah,
supposed to become that, not measure that. It's not measurable. So in our work, what I thought was going to happen, which is all the donors were going to demand me,
reports.
reports. No one's ever asked me for a report. It's super weird, right? Now we're
Mm,
not getting we don't get money from the government,
mm,
because the government's still in this this
Yeah.
computer-based mindset, the spreadsheet mind that you call it,
Yes, spreadsheet brain, yeah.
spreadsheet brain. But private people no longer want spreadsheet brain.
Yeah.
They don't want it. They want something else. So we opened a restaurant based on this concept and inserted the Georgian supra, which is it's a dinner that to me is indicative. It's an icon, an image of first things, which is to love God, love your neighbor, is to sit with people over food, which you know well from your work.
Mhm.
And hopefully it's good food. That matters. But the Georgians do a twist. And so I got this from working in Georgia during their civil war in the 90s. And it was a type of civil war. And in the 94, 95, I was there, and they did this dinner for me all the time. And what it is, it's a series of toasts.
Mm.
It's a series of toasts given by a tamada, a leader of the table, a toastmaster of sorts, who's trying to unify the table by giving toasts on the highest themes or ideals.
Mm.
And the highest theme or ideal has to be something that unites the whole table. So you might have black people, white people, brown people. I don't even really like those terms, but you might have Southern Italian Sicilians sitting with like African Americans, and then like here's 3 super tidy whiteys from the suburbs, and they're all together. And when they're all together in our restaurant, the tamada unites them, and the theme is something like universal, or I would call godly. And those, so you're going to toast to parents. You're going to toast to those who have died, to death, not to death, but the idea that death is a uniting thing. You're going to, and so whatever the tamada is offering, they're offering it at a high level and in a poetic way. And no one at the table should feel outside of the toast. Then that's an invitation to you at the table to ask permission. Here's I'll tell you why that's really important. And the permission comes in the form of sagradzello, may I have the toast, and then you will add the particular. So I do the universal, and then you add the particular. So if I did a toast on, the beauty of those who have gone before, who we call parents, then you would say to my dad, Jim, I got to tell you, he was a pain, but he used to always say this. And now you're telling a bunch of people you don't know about Jim. But guess what? They already know Jim, because Jim was in their life as their own father. And you're adding in Georgia, they call it, you're adding earth to my heaven. I gave the universal and you gave the particular. What we've lost in our culture, everybody wants to do the universal. Everybody wants to be the smart person who gives you the data about how life looks, and they don't want to be vulnerable about the particular. They don't actually share with each other. We don't share with each other those things that are hurt, unless it's like in a psychological Freudian way.
Right.
Unless we're trying to get healing or something.
Right.
So I'll just finish this to say the table, because I'm talking a lot, forgive me, but the table,
okay.
It's this, we did not understand what was happening and what is happening. Is the table is an answer to the unspoken question, which is, what am I supposed to do with all of these realizations? I need more. Like there's something missing. I got all the numbers. I got money in the bank somehow. No, not a lot of people have that these days, but I have so much shit. I got so much stuff. What's wrong with me? The table is an answer because it's an icon of the altar, which is the place where the deepest meaning comes from, especially in Orthodox Christianity. The Georgians are Orthodox. And so you're sharing something like the secret stuff, but you're sharing it in ways that are reminiscent, that are understandable to all people, but you don't put them in the altar. See, if you and I had dinner, I don't want to put you in my altar. It's too deep and too profound. And you don't want to put me in your altar. Like when I walk into your, oh, look, I'm visiting Ashley's house. This is so nice. You don't take me right into your bedroom. Hey, let me show you our bedroom. That'd be like, whoa, what's that about?
Right.
Like I was having a good day and now I'm in your bedroom. It's weird. And we try to get everybody right into our psychological or spiritual bedroom right away. Like, what do you believe? What do you think about Charlie Kirk? And then you realize, like, hold on. Can we just talk about the things that are really important to all of us before we get down this other road? And that's what the supra does, because the Georgians have refined the liturgy and have allowed it to go outside into the world in a way that's really useful to regular old human beings. So we do that, and we're finding that that image is the image of our work, and that our work is actually something people want. And that's what's going on in a
Okay,
lot of
so
ways.
I want to tell you a little bit about these events that I've held and how it connects, because it seems like to me now talking to you, you and I have super similar philosophies as to what
Yeah.
animates our work. So I've got like my field school and the podcast, which is just about like looking people in the eye, even if it's virtually, and getting to know them. And then we have these events, and basically the whole story behind the events was, basically the podcast started during COVID. Everybody's isolated. More and more people are sort of online, flattened words on a screen. Eventually we start this podcast. People are meeting one another, but then they're also meeting in person. And from Uruguay, I sent out a tweet that said like, "Hey, why don't we do some Doomer Optimism campouts?" And people got together in their various regions, and they're like thirsting for this kind of,
Yeah.
communal experience. And so I got together with my friend James Pogue, and I said like, these people want to meet each other. Like COVID's over, like let's do an event. So we go out to this place, the Wagon Box in Wyoming, who's owned by my friend Paul McNeil, and it's like this cool convivial place. It's like there's a restaurant, there's a fireplace, there's a bar, and then there's like places for people to stay. So it feels like a complex. And anyways, we just tried it out. I didn't know how it was going to be with all these different people getting together.
Hmm.
Everything is always so contentious online, and our theory was that if you're able to see like the whites of each other's eyeballs, it's like a Illich
Yes.
phrase, like it's a different thing happens. And so we had all these talks, and then we had an open mic night, and Paul
Hmm.
Kingsnorth is there, and he's reading poetry, and people are, drinking beer and playing music. The next night, we had these mini debates, and it was like
Yeah,
over
yeah, 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 yeah,
the
yeah.
2 days we are getting to know one another, like you're describing, which is like, wait, let me kind of see where you stand first, but not just that, like let me just kind of figure out who you are as a whole person.
Yeah.
And then by the time we got to the end, we did these mini debates, which was really fun because they were just like making fun of like the political divide almost, like should women wear pants or skirts, like stuff like that, like little kids doing
Which is fun. It's a
dogs
fun
versus
talk.
cats or whatever, like, or internal combustion engine, like good for humanity or bad, that stuff. Anyways, by the end of that second night, and now I've done 4 events and we have one upcoming. By the end of that second night, people were spontaneously toasting.
Oh, really?
Yes. And it was like to the dads, to the moms, like to all the
That
kids
gives
that are
me
here.
that's great.
Isn't that cool? And so anyways, I say all that to say, I think like there's something in this technology.
Yes.
We're like accidentally happening upon these
Yeah.
traditional social technologies. And I say all that to say, John, for the listeners, we're doing this event in Nashville, and John's gonna come, and
Yeah.
he's gonna what do you throw a
We're g
Supra?
we're gonna throw Supra, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and,
But
the information about that's forthcoming, but I'm super excited about this tech because we did it in, like, a sloppy way, and it was like, "Come on,
well,
we have to do toasts," but
no, you did it just so we have this Georgian, she's a doctor of history in she's Georgian. She's in her 70s. She said, "Don't worry, you do it. Americans do it like they do it."
yeah,
And
right,
I so I was like, "But we need a tom of course, you have tamada, you have table, but don't
yeah,
worry, they do it like they do it." And so, because I was really worried because I wanted to honor this thing, but you're describing it. Yeah, we're gonna do it because so I get calls. I don't even want to tell you how often I've been traveling. It's 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 really good for my work, which is networking and then trying to fund our projects.
right,
But that's not why I do it. People are like, "Why?" For August, I was home maybe 3 days, the
right,
whole month, and so,
right.
and I'm not like spring chicken, you know what I mean, sister? So,
Need some rest.
but the the dinner, the table, we call it the table, the supra.
Mm,
Supra means tablecloth. It means you took the table. The table is where you sit down, and in Georgia, if you have a bottle, and you have a tamada, and bottle here means wine.
Mm,
You could also drink any wine extract. So they drink moonshine from the grapes, so the dredge of the grapes. So
mm,
the point is the wine is really important. If you have the wine and you have the tamada, you have a table, you have a party. If
mm,
you put a tablecloth on it, you have a supra, which just means you just sort of formalized it a little bit.
mm,
But the reason I bring all this up is because I'm getting calls to do this with my buddy Daniel out in Seattle. He actually started Supra Dinner Society.
mm,
And basically, he and others, they simply throw these parties for people
right.
because the real goal is not for us to throw all the parties. It's to teach how to do it not because I really hope everyone becomes Orthodox, which, by the way, would be a good thing if Orthodoxy is true, which I believe it is. But the point is because when people do this, they can rebuff and fight against the machine
Yeah, totally.
because the machine wants people without traditions and without context for their existence.
Mm,
They don't want people who are aware of why they exist.
mm,
So there's a lot of ways to be aware of why you exist. Unfortunately, we don't practice a lot of them. And one of them is this table.
yeah.
And it sounds like your work. And it's a way to fight against it, but people don't realize it. So when we can mimic, when we can mimics the wrong word, when we can take the tradition and then suddenly it shows up in someone's home,
Mm,
whether they're Christian or not, what's happening is they're becoming able to become human and fight against the machine because the
mm,
machine is real,
yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. And I yeah, I mean, maybe we could talk a little bit more about maybe what you've seen on the ground because I'm trying to think like I don't know what's harder, but these are both really hard situations. The situation we're currently in, like the Charlie Kirk thing, like
Mm.
just everybody is not everybody. There are extreme ends of the normal distribution that kind of like push our discourse in extreme directions, but it doesn't like I don't think most people are like that. And I do have like a lot of faith that fundamentally people see
Mm.
beauty and truth when confronted with it. But another hard situation, so like the modern, US political situation's hard getting people in front of each other. And I think people are generally humane once they're face to face. But then like in this foreign context might be even illustrative, like how do local people respond to your people coming in?
Right.
Like, that's a pretty tough situation, like, who are these people? How like, what is their role here? There's just a lot of, like, I'm sure skepticism all over the
Yeah.
world of, like, workers coming in to try to do something to help us, like,
Right.
maybe you
So,
could talk a little bit about what that's been like.
so the process of introducing a foreigner, and especially a European in our racialized world, let's call them white,
Yeah.
and they're not all. I mean, we just hired a Libyan. He's an amazing guy from England. So he's brown or whatever these dumb categories are. But I really do. We could get into that too. But here's the process of introducing an outsider into sort of old fashioned communities is really hard.
Yeah.
Uh, and the number one reason it's really hard is not because you're not welcome. So here's the thing that people should know. It's in Mozambique, Sierra Leone, Mali, where I lived for a long time, Georgia,
Mm,
Haiti, all these places where I've been, with no running water, no electricity. People have a code. It's a moral code. And it generally is that the outsider must be taken care of. That is actually an inclination, not just in Christians.
yeah.
Islamic hospitality is famous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so coming in is not hard, but what's hard for us Westerners is to understand the role of the guest.
Mm,
So the role of the guest, and this, again, this is an ancient thing. It's definitely an ancient Christian thing. The role of the guest is not to expect certain things. So for instance, like now, here's the way that I think most people, oh, I've got 4 friends coming over. 2 of them are vegan, so I've got to get vegan food. That would be
Oh my god.
odd in the old world. That would be no, my job in the old world is to give you the best of what I have,
Mm.
not to go get you what you want.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then what's the role of the guest? The role of the guest is to sit quietly and accept the best that that the host has.
Mm.
So what's the best that the host has in where we live in Mozambique? It's going to be like probably some bushmeat.
Right.
But what we do as outsiders is go, I can't eat that bushmeat
Yeah.
because I don't know what it is. Tell me what this is. And what you're trying to do is protect yourself. Now, here's the problem. You should protect yourself, especially where things might actually hurt you. But most of the stuff that your neighbors are eating, you can eat too. Otherwise, what are you doing there? Like
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Unless everyone's dropping dead around you, then don't eat that thing. But
Yeah.
that's not what's happening. Is
Yeah.
99 out of 100 people are walking around fine.
Yeah.
So eat the bushmeat. But see,
Yeah.
we don't think like that as guests. And
Yeah.
so here's what I'm trying to answer is that the hardest thing is to actually become humble.
Mm.
But like really humble. You know, like turn down the private ride that you could easily get because you're a white person and take
Mm.
the local transport, which is really hard.
Yeah.
So we don't let our guys have cars. They have to take local transport, which
Mm.
is now, again, is it more dangerous than taking your own car? Yeah. But 99 out of 100 of those Mende West African Sierra Leoneans took it. Why can't you again? What's the
Yeah, right.
answer? What's
Right.
the
Well, and then
answer?
I like that already separates you.
Yes.
If you have that attitude of like I need to have a separate diet, I need to have separate transport, and now all of a sudden like you're not really first of all, you're not really part of the community, but second
Yes.
of all, they see that. I mean, people notice things.
This is the hardest thing. You
Yeah.
got it,
Yeah.
100%. Because you also did something else, which is really important to know. Like my guess is I know this as a historian, that the kings ate separate food from the serfs. The
Mm.
kings also took different transportation than the serfs. And here's the other thing is the kings were expected to give stuff to the serfs. So, and they did.
Yeah.
They had to, or the serfs. So if you don't take the same transport as our Mozambican neighbors and you don't eat the same food, then you also have to give them stuff.
Yeah, right.
And now you've created a really bad relationship. Well, it's not bad.
But it's
You
just
better have a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Totally.
And now you've also put yourself in a power position,
Mm.
which of course, this is the history of colonialism. This is just
Mm.
what every colonial power did. They
Mm.
didn't mind creating that relationship. And so we have to undo that through
Yeah.
humility. And then people go, well, I don't understand. So you just go there and be humble. Yeah. Try it sometime.
And make yourself useful, you know, and what I mean, so, okay, I have a similar, experience. So first of all, I traveled around the world, like 38 countries between college and grad school, just like overland, just like on buses
Wow.
um, and, just shoestring travel. And so I had this policy and I don't really know why I set this policy for myself, but like if I'm ever offered something you take it, you know,
Good
the only
policy.
time I ever refused something was staying at this Syrian family's house in Jordan, and again, a hospitality culture, they don't drink alcohol, but everyone has alcohol hidden under the sink, and, like, as a form of hospitality, poured this giant glass of, like, hard alcohol. I was like, "Thank you so much." It took, like, 1 sip. But, like, didn't really refuse it, but just, you know, I'm not drinking this whole glass, whatever. But otherwise, I'm like, you know,
Well, you didn't refuse it. You drank it,
no.
right?
Yeah, right, yeah, just
Maybe not all of it, but you
yeah,
drank it.
exactly,
It's important.
and
It's
so
important.
I had this idea, like, you know, almost everywhere I'm going, because mostly, you know, I did some Western Europe, but mostly not, um, the people have less than me. Even me as, like, a young, you know,
Right.
like, broke person, they have less than me, so them offering something is, like, such an act of charity to this traveler. Like, I remember I was waiting for a visa in an office that was also an apartment building, and this woman came out with the silver tray. I think this was also in Jordan, just with cookies and, like, tea for people, and I was like, "This is just so beautiful." So then I've always had this attitude when I have the students come to Uruguay, like, you get what people serve or whatever. This last trip that I ran, there were, like, 2 vegans and a gluten-free, which is an allergy, vegetarian, all these, like, preferences, food preferences, and, of course, as somebody who, like, works with university students, you can't really tell them, like, "You're not getting
Yes,
your accommodations," and it's
I
better
know.
on your thing because you can just tell them, You're getting what you get." Because with the university students, they're just like, "I need my vegan preferences, accommodated," or whatever, and I'm like, "God, it's just such a lack of humility, like, you're these people are offering you the best of what they have, and you're."
That's it.
I know, I know, I
Can
know.
you imagine? It's actually kind of crazy. So it's kind of crazy that once you fully understand what you do. By the way, we just started a field school under the First Things umbrella, and we did our beta. We did our very first time. So I got to
Mhm.
pick your brain
Yeah, right. You can
because
talk.
I do imagine we're going to get the university students, but we prepped our guys, as I'm sure you do. So we didn't let them. We were like, I don't. One only ate meat. She only wanted to eat meat, and we're like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's, like, kind of a luxury good in a lot of
Like
places.
it might happen, might not. I
Yeah,
don't know. We'll see. But that's a. I think you have to have your heart in the right place because it may be you have to do economia and offer people. I get it. I get it. It's a
yeah,
debate, but
yeah,
um, no. What I was saying is there. Imagine that I baked you my best apple pie, and you said I don't eat apples. It's kind of nuts.
yeah.
It's short of it killing you. It's like an incredible way to just disrespect somebody,
Yeah,
like,
and I mean, I
on
think
his face.
and in general too, like, a lot of it just has to do with this idea, and he said it at the beginning, but this is actually really profound, especially with, like, Westerners now. The ego attitude of, like, "Well, this is my preference and therefore needs to be accommodated." I fight with people online even when they say something to the extent of, "Well, I'm a mother of a young infant, and what if I just don't want to spend time around my infant? What if I'd rather not be near them?" And I'm like, "Well, if you have to work, you have to work, but if you don't have to work, you have an obligation to this infant you just birthed. I mean, you're
Th
interdependent with
th
you know what I mean?"
that's
And
that
it's
happened to you? That conversation
oh,
happened to you?
that happens a lot where people say, like, "This is just my preference." What if the mom's preference is to be away from their baby? And I'm just like, "Well, I'm sorry, you have an obligation," and people
That's
hate
not
me for it.
possible. You're the mother.
You don't even know, like, people's preferences are above all nowadays, even if it's something like you have to take care of something or someone, and you just don't feel like it because you have a preference to do something else, and this is actually a big problem, I think, with a lot of
It's a
people. They
big
just
problem.
don't.
Can I give you, so in our training, this is, I wanna make a comment about what you just said, and philosophically. I think that we suffer in Western society from a lie, and the lie is that we're autonomous.
Totally.
So we're not autonomous. There is no like I have to make a decision myself.
Mm,
There is no ability to do that because one is you're using membranes in your mind, let's call it in your brain, that were on loan to you from your parents and then ultimately from God. You really can't make an independent decision. Also, the ideas that you're working with were introduced by someone else through word or thought
mm,
you're not, there is no independent autonomous idea that you've ever had. It's come
yeah,
from someone else. You've never eaten an independent autonomous meal. Y- The seed, you didn't make the seed of the thing, even if you're stuck in a, I don't know, if you're like you guys out in the woods growing your own stuff. Here's the thing, it still came from somewhere else. You weren't independent of the other. So there is no such thing as autonomy. And what happens is when you believe yourself to be autonomous, then you believe your decisions to be good
yep,
in and of themselves
right,
because they're yours. And they can't be separated from who you are, which is of course a lie and a joke. It's like not possible. So
Yeah.
I think one of the problems, because that's a crazy story, that
Oh, yeah.
mom thinks she's in a mother. So mother by definition demands a child.
Yeah.
You can't be a mother without a child. The idea that you exist independently of your child and call yourself a mother is not possible.
Right. And that my preference is more important than, like, the infant's need, like,
But like
biologic.
ontologically, like as a
Yeah.
thing, like as an ontos, as a being, a mother isn't a mother without
I
a
know.
child.
I
So,
know.
you know, you could say the same thing about men and women. There's really no man who's a man without a woman. They
Right.
don't, a man can't exist outside of the context of a woman, and a woman can't exist. We're not meant to be at each other's throats. It's not possible. You're the
It's an
complement
interdependent,
to
yeah, it's
me.
an interdependence. I mean, this is my whole thing, part of my whole, ethos around getting students out onto farms and onto land in terms of, or to be able to teach environmentalism, is that environmentalism has become this, like, spreadsheet technocratic thing, and I try to show them, like, this is all interdependence. You go out onto a farm and you see not only are the people interdependent with the land and the animals, they're also interdependent with each other
Yeah.
to be able to make all of this happen, and that's the
Yeah.
thing that the students always point out when they come, is, like, as much as they love, like, the nature part of it and all the little decisions and all the little noticing that the farmers do of, like, "Oh, this if this weed is coming up, that means we're, low in this nutrient, and I gotta, work on
Hmm.
rotating," or whatever, which is an amazing thing to behold because it's so much better than, like, the science done from, like, measuring and and
Right.
putting
Right.
putting a bunch of data points in, but instead it's like a guy who just looks down and sees a certain plant and knows what needs to happen. But also that all the farmers, they come and help, and then the farmers that we're working with go and help them, and they have this, like, interdependence of chores and help days and all of that. So I'm wondering, to, like, kinda bring it back around, what do you notice in the people you send abroad?
Mm.
Like, philosophical
Mm.
changes in them, and what might that teach us about maybe the direction we should be thinking about going
I
in
love that.
our lives.
This is, thank you for asking that. So the first thing that happens, and these are patterns, right? This isn't true
Yeah.
for every person, but people who make the full 2.5 years and don't leave early, 2 years and don't leave early, it's really 2.5 when you include some training time. But what happens to them, number one, is they can no longer rest comfortably in their knowing.
Mm,
So you could argue that sounds like, oh, wait, that's making them more or less stable. They're unstable. No, it's not true. What happened is they realized that they are always on the brink of learning something new,
mm,
also about themselves, because some of these places are so fundamentally different that without being in that learning mode, you'll just go home.
mm,
It's too much. It's too much difference. And so you have to be able to say, I don't know. I don't know. The people who go and want to know, in other words, they don't do well without the data, they want more data, and they won't take risks until they have the data, they usually break.
mm,
They usually come home early. And
mm,
so what I see as the number one pattern is the people grow towards smallerness. Like, that's not a word, I know. I like that word though. They be smallerness. They keep getting smaller in their expectations. They get smaller in their ability, what they imagine they have the ability to do. They get smaller in terms of like what's important to them. Like now
mm,
it's only a certain amount of things that are important. Everything grows smaller,
mm,
which I find, and I believe, and may it be true when on my deathbed or in the day after my death, that it may be that I see clearly that this was a good thing. I
mm,
think it's a good thing. I don't think it's good to keep imagining yourself as bigger. Um, Now, you have a bigness that just to do theology for 2 seconds, because I don't want people to think I'm saying like, you know, you're bad. You, in terms of the theology, in terms of what I believe to be true, I'm already as possibly as big as it can possibly get because I'm made in the image of the creator. Like, that's pretty big. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in that image, or let's put it this way, in that shadow of the creator, I should also be able to adhere to a tininess. Like, I should get small, right, in the shadow of the creator. If there is such a thing as a creator, as God, then if I can't actually adhere to smallness and can't be small, then something's like kind of wrong with me.
Yeah.
And I would argue the West, the project of modernity has been to displace this massive image of God and put it into the minds of men
Mm,
to make us like the gods. And
mhm.
so we have to have ego. We have to puff out our chest. We have to become the ones that has the answer, because otherwise you're like a really crappy god. You're like a little punk god, like you don't have much to offer the
Yeah.
world of the deities. You know what I mean?
Or like a psychotic disordered god. I mean, this AI stuff is like really driving me nuts because it's like everybody is a result of all of these people who think they are capable of creating some
Can
sort
can I
of
ask you something?
deity.
AI, isn't it just spitting out what we gave it?
Yes.
So on some level, it's us.
It's self-worship,
Yeah.
or
It's
yeah.
it's scary.
It is scary. It is scary. I mean, it's especially scary because I had a guy on the podcast who wrote a whole history of transhumanism, and basically started with the garden. He was like, "Oh, it started with the garden. This is
Wow.
all like a process of falling." But yeah, it's scary because my biggest fear about it is like people going into machine worlds. I mean, just getting subsumed into machine worlds, which they might just get disoriented about like what's real and what's not anymore. And that part I really am most scared about, but less so than like the worship than just like sort of getting
Yes.
caught up,
Well,
you
I
know?
was on a plane. I was on a red eye just last night, or whatever, a night and a half ago, whatever it was. This happened. The woman sat down next to me. I said, "Hey, how are you?" I'm not that talkative on a plane. I'm not trying to act like I'm that social. But it's a long flight overnight from the West Coast. And hey, what's happening? She had her headphones on. She just turned, looked at me. She didn't say anything. Fine. She must have ordered the internet, because this is not. I'm not exaggerating, people. This is not. This is a 5-hour flight, maybe 5 hours and 20 minutes. She did not stop typing on her phone, like like sending sending texts or posting or whatever. She did it the whole night. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not. I wish I was exaggerating.
Yeah.
Headphones on the whole night, posting, 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 posting. It became a distract. Like, it became that thing, when you like that loud voice when you're trying to sleep. It became that to me.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything. I eventually just sort of fell asleep mostly. But the whole night, what?
I know.
Who the is she talking to?
And people are immersed, like, they're just immersed in these digital worlds, and to bring it back to, like, both what the theme through our both of our work, like, you have a restaurant, you have people who go places in person, you do this
Super important, Ashley.
the dinners, like, these events, like, I don't see a way out of this, and
I
not
don't
just
either.
the technology part, but just, like, the seeing one another's humanity, keeping those skills of debate and discussion and, like,
Mhm.
loving one another as, a child of God, all of that. It's a muscle. Like, there's a book,
Yes.
Art of Loving, Eric Fromm. It's not like love isn't something that just, like, sort of, like, descends upon you and you act in accordance with what's being told. It's a skill, it's an art, it's a muscle, it's
Beautiful.
something you work at. So I'm really excited about our dinner. I've never done a supra. I've never been an attendee at a supra before. I think it's really cool to try to um, bring that technology and do it the way. I mean, a lot of my Orthodox friends are like, there is a potential for American Orthodoxy. It's its own thing, and I'm like, I'm curious to see like American
This is
Orthodox.
it.
Yeah,
This
what
is
does
it.
it look like? Yeah.
This is it outside of the liturgy. So I don't know. Can I ask you, what's your you got an affiliation, or are you
Yeah,
trying to
Catholic. Catholic.
Catholic?
Yeah.
So, but all of us have. I always say, if you're from the old world, like my Muslim friends, they could just drop into a supra. They wouldn't drink the wine, which would cause a problem actually on some level, but they would get it. Like
Yeah.
some people get it.
Yep.
Some Americans get it by nature, and you'll get it. But
Yeah.
it is this thing where it's the extension of the sacramental into the world without, like I said before, making you go into the bedroom. You don't have to go all the way there. It's
Yeah.
not essential for the dinner. And what I realized is that's actually what missionary work is. And
Mm.
again, I don't want people here to think I'm trying to, well, he does that table to turn people into Orthodox. No, I don't. It's not like that at all. I don't have that kind of outlook on life.
Mm.
The table has its own value. Like, it is in and of itself worthy of having been done. Like, and having a tamada has its own value. Not only joy of the moment, but it has its own value in life. It's good to be attentive to others and to have to look up. So a lot of times you see at the table, without going on, I don't want to bore you, but this is actually super interesting.
Yeah, it's important.
It is, and it'll help you. One of the hardest parts at the restaurant, so we do this with people, they coming and they pay, it's not cheap, and they're joining the table, but they don't know what's going on. And so they're like, oh. But once the tamada begins, the hardest thing for Americans is to recognize an authority. It's very difficult. It's because, again, I have to call the table to attention. So you'll see that, like, I've had big groups of people come, and they're like, 7 people out of the 20 have come to celebrate their friend's birthday. So what they really want is to hang out 7 people.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And they sit together. Sometimes we have to separate them because the seats didn't work out right, which is great. I love when that happens. But anyway, they got their 7 out of the 20. They're sitting together. And then all of a sudden the tamada, tink, tink, tink. And then you have to listen. But they don't want to listen. There's a transactional mind that said, I paid for my dinner and you've spoken enough now. I want what I want. And I'll tell you a quick little anecdote, and you'll totally understand what I'm saying is that the human beings need the leader. Here's what I mean. It was one of these dinners, but it was private. And it was 18, 20, 30 something women who were coming to celebrate their friend's birthday. Got it?
Yeah.
They're all dressed to the T. They've heard about our restaurant. Our restaurant's gotten kind of famous.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but it's really true. So they've come, they're dressed up. It's nice out. There's the Georgian jazz playing. It's nice and so nice. And then 3 of the people have been to the supra before. That's how they got there. And now their friend is coming and they can't wait to show it to her friend and have a big party. So they come up to me as we're about to sit down and they say, hey, we just get so glad. Thank you. But you know how you guys do that toast when you honor the dead and all that? We don't want you to do that. So if you know the supra, that's what it is. Like, if you don't have that toast, you might as well just go to the nightclub. Like, I don't even know why you're at the table. That's like essential to the table. There's a whole traditions, which is part of what we teach while we're doing it.
Yeah.
So I said, I don't, that's what you guys say. That's what a supra is. So I have to be able to do. That's really important to me. Because when I do this, I'm trying to honor Georgia because it changed my life.
Right.
And so they said, no, you don't understand. Our friend who we're having a big party for, her father died last week. And this is her first time out. She's so sad. And we just want to have fun. So we just don't want you to do it. And I said, so, all right, but you have to trust me because I can't really do a supra without that. And then one of them said, you don't understand. We paid for this. And if you do that, it's going to make her sad. This is not about sadness this night. And I said, you have to trust me because I'm going to do it. And it's the supra. And then they stomped off. Now I'm talking stomped.
Yeah. Mad.
And they sat down, first toast, second toast. Anyway, when the 5th toast, when the toast came to the dead, we did it. So Ashley, what do you think happened?
It was fine and cathartic and beautiful.
Exactly. That those two that were belly aching the most were like, I just want to say, whenever I met your dad, I loved your dad. And then she's
And it's
crying, and
important.
then we
It's important.
sang to
It's
them. We sang to her father. Like, how is that not going to be a part of your party? I don't understand. It's like
no,
cocaine. Cocaine will make you happy too. But what, we can all do cocaine so we can forget about stuff? Like, what are you talking about? Like, how
yeah.
are we not going to do that? But she wasn't a bad person, but she's so disconnected from the actual reality of life that she can't even make. She's not clear enough to see that this is necessary to her joyfulness.
Oh God, that's so
Yeah,
good. Oh,
I know, man. It was
I know,
crazy
and
though.
also, yeah, but I mean, it really does also speak to this desire to like push out the tragedy
Right.
or like it deal with tragedy at all, and like
The
the
remainder, the
yeah,
remainder, the
and
leftover. Wait a minute, what
that's
do we do about
actually
death?
there's a way to celebrate also even in tragedy. And so that's a
That's right.
really interesting juxtaposition that we don't have a lot of. I
No,
mean,
we got rid of it.
we don't have a
No.
lot of that. And I think like even well, when I first I went to this I mean Catholic schools on the south side of Chicago, they have this retreat called Kairos, and it's like in senior year you go off, you don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of like this coming of age thing. I can't say too much about what happens there because it's a secret for
Okay.
future students, but um one of the things that I kind of realized during that retreat wasn't like an explicit thing they talked about, but just like the Last Supper is this technology of these people who get together and sort of like are there for one another, and the meal is this technology like that. And I like the idea of like, part of what we do is, hey, look, I made a mistake. I want to say I sinned.
This is
I
it.
want I
By the
want
way,
and like and what a nice thing to be able to do publicly and say, "Hey, look, I realize this. I just want to acknowledge it in front of everybody." And it's like, "It's okay, brother. Come on in. You made a
yes.
mistake. We love
Yes.
you." And like that kind of thing, where it's like there are difficult things in life, death, sin, pain, whatever, suffering that you cause one another, and
Do
being
you
able to
have
like deal with that in community. I
do
don't
you
know.
have time for one? I don't want to go
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
But I have one story that is the atomic bomb of supra stories. Can I
Okay.
give it to you?
Yes, please.
And just contextually, just remember, we do this. Our restaurant is nonprofit, and so the restaurant is like our offices. Then people come in and out of the restaurant, and then they say, "I love what you guys do," yada yada. And
Mm,
so then we started this other super dinner site in Seattle, and same idea. And my buddy who runs it, Daniel Paternos, was invited to do supra. Well, he advertised, and then this woman called him. So this is the atomic bomb of all super stories to me. It's the best story I've ever told in my whole life. And I wasn't there, but I'm telling it. And hello, hi, I would like you to come to my house and do a super. I heard about you, and would you come and do it? Sure. What's your name? Da da da. We'll do it. Absolutely. Saturday. Da da da. Great. Great. So my buddy has a caterer a Georgian caterer that he works with. They get it all ready. She says, we'll have 15 people. They're friends of mine coming from all over the world. It's going to be so much fun. And he's like, she sounds a little sad, but let's do it.
mm,
Great. Saturday comes, Saturday, the day of. And there's a phone call. And it's from a man to Daniel, who's getting ready to come to the house later that afternoon. And the man is on the phone saying, I won't curse, but I can. But if you want, I don't know what this is, but
it doesn't matter.
I don't want to curse. But he's saying, who are you? Why are you trying to take advantage of my wife? It's not going to be good. Who are you? Why are you coming to my house? And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's like, you're bullshit. This is garbage. I can't believe. He's like, what are you upset about? He said, you took advantage of my wife. There's no party here today. And he's like, well, why? She's like, my wife is dying. My wife is in hospice. Like, she's going to be dead.
Oh my
I don't
God.
know why you're coming to my house. And
Ugh,
Daniel's like, well, because she called me. She
yeah.
said, people are coming. He said, nobody's coming here. This is garbage. And then there's a pause. And he said, yeah, honey, I'll be right there. Don't worry. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. He goes, just freaking come. And then hangs up the phone. So like something's going on, right? So
Yeah.
my buddy's like, this is expensive. This is 15 people is a lot of people to feed. And he's
Right.
going over there. So he calls a caterer and she says, she's Georgian. She goes, I don't know. I think we go. So they
Yeah.
all went. They got there. Sure enough, this woman, Lisa, is like, she's super ill. She's like
Very ill.
skeletal.
Oh my
And the
God.
husband's drunk as can be, sitting in a chair, sitting in his armchair, and he's like, "I told you this is bullshit." He's cursing, he's mad, and Daniel walks in with a caterer and all this food.
God.
He's like, "Well, let's have a
Right.
supra."
Yeah.
And they set it up, and Lisa comes over and she's like, "I'm so excited. I hope everyone comes." She's clearly struggling.
Yeah.
And then Daniel says, "Of course, whatever." And then the husband, and then they put the food out. And Daniel does the first toast, which is always a toast to gratitude and to God. And then she toasts. There's no one there. And then he comes and finally and sits down. And then the doorbell rings. And two people show up. And they're like, "Well, Lisa, you said you were going to have a party, so we came by." And the husband was like, "Who are you?" He goes, "Well, we own the Airbnb." It turns out they rented this Airbnb for this.
Oh my
Lisa
God.
did this for the weekend, like telling her husband, "This is my last weekend," or
Yeah.
whatever. So these are the owners. They came over to fix the water. And she said, "Will you come to my supra tonight?" And I'm going to cry. I swear I'm going to cry. Sorry, I cry a lot. I'm an easy crier. So anyway, they come in and sit down. So that, then the next toast. And then a guy comes over. He's delivering Mexican food because she called him. He's his friend. It's a friend, kind of, but he also delivers. And she says, "Oh, put the food on the table. Will you stay?" And he's like, "Sure, I'll stay." Then he sits down, and now there's four of them. And Daniel does the toast, including the toast to the dead, which is essential for the supra. And the whole thing goes on all night. It's so good. And the husband at the end says, "Just so you know, we don't have any money." And Daniel says, "It's okay. Don't you worry." And then 2 days later, he found out, he calls and he said, "My wife died today."
Oh my God.
And I was wrong to yell at you. And I have $200, but it's not nearly enough. He goes, "But could I give it to you?" And then the next day, the two people who own the Airbnb called him and said, "We want to pay." I'm sorry, I'm emotional.
It's okay.
This is what happens. This is how we live. And she died and he buried her. And Daniel's telling me this story. He's just crying. He's just crying. And the ironic thing, he's telling me while I'm in Georgia, and this is how the story ends. I'm in Georgia and he's calling me at night, and I'm with 3 Georgian friends of mine who speak English. And he says, "Can I tell you what just happened, please?" And so I put it on phone. I said, he knows them too. And I put it on speaker, and he told the story. The Georgians didn't say a word. A word. And then he hung up crying. And they just sat silent. And they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." And then they said, "That's the most beautiful thing I ever heard." And these are Georgians. And they said,
Right.
"To our supra, may we not forget our own traditions," because they're starting to forget too. So
Right.
I just want you guys to know that these are like, it's not in the big things. It's not in what these networks are telling us. It's how we know our neighbor, and who's our neighbor. It's whoever we meet today. So I don't know. Sorry, I
No,
didn't
that's
think I'd get that
beautiful.
emotional, but that's like the atomic bomb of stories for me. If I tell that one, I have to watch out because I get so emotional.
I mean, it's just, to me, it really just speaks to, there is such an openness and love that people have, and people will, when invited, open their heart to these kinds of things. And I think if anything, like, that's what we're working on, both of us, and trying super hard to do. It's like, you know, a lot of people, this podcast called Doom or Optimism, and a lot of people, they want to get stuck in the doom. But what a beautiful and optimistic story that is, that you just told. I mean, it's just, the Airbnb hosts and the delivery driver come and they show up for
That's
this
a movie, right?
on
That's
her
like a whole
deathbed,
movie
and you
right there.
just think, like, you hear all these other stories about people, hurting one another, but then you don't hear enough about these other stories or have enough
Yes.
of these other kinds of experiences
That's
that
why I
kinda
love
show you, like,
your
I do
show.
I just believe that when presented with the option to, like, participate in good and beauty and be there for one another, people do it. People do
Yes.
it. And so we
That's
just have to, like, we need to be the merchants of that, the providing opportunities to open our hearts to one another. It's really
well, that's what we're doing. Do
thank
more
you for sharing
optimism.
that. Yeah, thank you.
By the way, it's proper title, man. I think you have the best title out there in the
It
interworld.
was I mean, and it was like, I don't know, divine intervention or what, but it was just an accident, this name
Well, you
really.
have to have both because
Yeah.
if you don't see the doom around, then you're not paying attention.
Yeah,
So
exactly. But
yeah,
despite that, what is it? There's a Wendell Berry line, "Be joyful though you have considered all the facts."
that's right. That's great. I've heard something like that, and then you said until you've considered all the facts. It's true.
Yes, and it's the
True.
facts. I mean, there's the facts of reality, but you've considered it all. You're not a spring chicken, you're not naive,
Right.
but I'm still gonna go around spreading joy. I'm gonna do my best at it at least,
Yeah,
you know?
that's right. Yeah.
John, this was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for telling that story. That was so beautiful. For everybody listening, we are doing an event in outside of Nashville in a little town called Red Boiling Springs at a haunted hotel called the Thomas House, February 13th and 14th. So over President's Day weekend, but also Valentine's. So it's going to be really interesting, and John's going to throw us a Supra.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna do it. We're
we'll
gonna do
all
it.
experience it together. Once I have that info, I'll get it up. But thanks, John. This was great.
Thank you, sister. We'll be in touch. Very nice to talk to you today.
Yeah, you too.